This video is to show you how to use CloudExtend when creating or editing your NetSuite quotes within Excel. So to start this video off, I have a sheet here that is going to be a quote template directly from within Excel. And this is going to be a standard template. You can download it directly from Excel, or you can create a custom template based off of your requirements. But as long as you have this type of quotation format, then this is a quotation that you can actually send to your customers. So now that we have this quote template from within Excel, we can verify some of the fields that we would map over to our CloudExtend template so we can upload it back into NetSuite. So here we have the date field, which is one of the requirements on my test drive environment. And then here is the expected close date. And then for the quotation for this is just going to be your entity or your customer. And then here we have the quantity, the description of the item, the pricing of the item, which is essentially the rate, and then the amount field. So this is going to be essentially just the quantity times the rate will equal the amount. But if you do have a custom price level, you can just automatically add in the amount here and it'll map it into the amount field inside of the quote. All right, so now that we have a better understanding of this format, we can actually put it to the test and add some data into it. And then once we add data into it, we're going to go into the CloudExtend template to confirm the mapping of the values to each of the column fields of the CloudExtend template. So before we add data into this quote template, let's go into CloudExtend and create our quote template. So when we create our CloudExtend template, I'm going to open up a new sheet so it doesn't override my existing quote template here. So I'm going to click on this plus sign. So once I have the sheet open, you can see that I have these two buttons here. So if I click on either search and download or create new records, it's going to lead me to a three-step process, allowing me to create a template to perform any of these operations of creating a new record or searching and downloading existing records for us to edit. For demo purposes, I am going to select create new records. And as you can see, it brings us to the three-step process. So the first step is to search for that record type. So when it comes to quotes, NetSuite actually returns estimate as the name for the quote record type. So when you do search for the quote record type, just make sure you search for estimate. I'm going to select this record type here. And then for demo purposes, I'm going to just add in all of my fields and we'll review any of the fields that we've added into my template. All right, so now that I've added all of my fields onto the template, I'm going to click on add fields. So what we're going to do here, we're going to verify some of these fields that we've added. So entity is actually customer field and it is a required field inside of NetSuite. So make sure you add this entity field. Expected close date is one of the fields when it comes to the quote. So you want to make sure you add that onto your template as well. Tran date and then Tran ID. So these are optional, but if you do want to see the date field as well as the quote number, Tran ID is actually the quote number inside of NetSuite. And then if we go down to the item sublist, we have item, quantity, rate, and price. Pretty standard. So these are all of the required fields that you would need to add if you were to create a quote inside of NetSuite. So once we have everything here in terms of the required fields, we're just going to click on continue, click yes. And as you can see, it loaded the template here. And once I've loaded the template, you do have an option to save the template onto your CloudExtend session. So I'm going to click on this toggle. You can rename it to what type of operation that you want to perform, as well as provide a description of the template. And if I scroll down a little further, you can see there's an option to share within your organization. So if I toggle this on, everyone in my organization is going to be able to see the template and they're also able to use the template on their CloudExtend session as well. For this, I am going to leave this unchecked. I am going to click on save and enter data. And once I do that, it's going to save the template onto my CloudExtend session. All right, so now the template is saved. Let's proceed on and perform a quote upload into NetSuite. For demo purposes, I already have data in the data for demo tab right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy that and add it into the quotation tab. And once the data is in there, it's going to map it over into our quote upload tab. All right, so now that I have some data in the quotation tab here, you can see that I added the customer, which is Blue Street Liquor Store. I've also added the today's date and the expected close date. And then for the quantity, I just added ones throughout all the rows for all the particular items that I want to upload for the quote. And then the description is actually just the item name. So I added that into that column. The unit price is the rate of the item. And then the amount is going to be the amount, right? So once I have all that information there, with Excel, I use formulas to map it over. You can also use macros or any kind of functionalities and features within Excel to map it over into the CloudExtend template. But now if I go into the quote upload tab here, you can see that the Excel formula inside of the formula bar here has taken the data from that quote tab and it automatically added into the sheet right here, or the template for the estimate and quote record upload. So once I have the data here, I can actually repeat it throughout the rows. So it validates the customer that I want to upload and create the quote for. Expected close date has the formula as well. It repeated a date throughout the close date, as well as the transaction date for today. And then the item is a very simple Excel formula. Just do an equal sign for the cell, and it pulled in the items from that quote tab. And now if I go to the right a little bit more, same thing with the quantity and also the rate. So here, there's one additional thing you need to do. Because this is a custom rate inside of the quote tab, you can leave this blank if it is a base price and this is the correct rate, or you don't even need to add the rate there, but for the rate, you do want to add it so the customers can see it. But here, if it's a custom price level, you just need to add double brackets around a -1. So as you can see, this is going to be custom price level. As long as you add this and repeat it throughout the rows, you're telling the system that all these rates right here for all of these items and this quantity is going to be the custom price level that I want to add into the quote. And as you can see, I don't have the amount field, and that's totally fine. You don't need to have the amount field because inside of NetSuite, the quantity times the rate will equal your amount. So now that I have all the information here, I am going to upload this back into NetSuite. So if I click upload to NetSuite, go down to upload records, you're going to see that it's going to recognize the data in the CloudExtend template. And if it's successful, it's going to return the internal ID in column B. And once it returns it, we can verify and go back into NetSuite to confirm. All right, so now you can see that the internal ID has returned back in green in column B and is successfully uploaded. So now let's go into NetSuite to confirm that this upload or this creation of this quote has been created successfully. All right, so now that we're in NetSuite, you can see within this list of estimates and quotes that the first quote that we see here in the list has the internal ID of 185616, and that's the same internal ID as the one we have created with CloudExtend. So if I click on view, you can see that the data is going to be mapped appropriately into the template or into the form of NetSuite. All right, so now the customer is mapped appropriately, the expected close date, and then also the transaction date for today's date is here. And then here's the quote number. So now if I scroll down, you can see all of the items and the quantity and the description of it, as well as the price level is custom. The price, which is the rate that we have in the quotation tab inside of the CloudExtend template or the Excel workbook. And everything else right here is automatically calculated within NetSuite. And also, if you do want to take a look at some audit trail, you can go into history, go to system notes, and here you can see when it was uploaded, as well as who created it, under what context, and the type of operation, and also the fields that has been updated based off the creation of it. So if you do want to edit this, you can easily do this within CloudExtend as well. So all you need to do is go back into the template, and let's just say if I go back into the quotation tab and the customer wants to change it, they can actually change it themselves if you share the workbook with them. What I'm going to do, I'm going to change the quantity from 1 to 2. And now if I go back into my CloudExtend template, you can see that the quantity is changed from 2. And then the rate is going to be the same right here, but the amount that's going to be generated would be different because of the quantity times the rate. So I'm going to go to upload to NetSuite. And now the only thing different when it comes to creation is that we actually have the internal ID of the existing record inside of NetSuite now. So if I go to upload, the system will recognize that I made a change for the quantity. So rather than 1, we're going to change it to 2. And everything else in terms of the workflow and the calculation will automatically be calculated within NetSuite. Okay, so now that you see that says successfully uploaded, we can go back into NetSuite to confirm that the update has been changed to the record. So now that we're back in NetSuite, we're just going to refresh the page. We're going to go down to the item, and you can see that the quantity for each of the item has been changed from quantity of 1 to 2. And then also the amount has been updated because of the calculation for the quantity times the rate. This concludes our video tutorial on how to create and edit NetSuite quotes in Excel. If you need further support, please visit our support site at support.cloudextend.io.